Hi, and welcome back to our kitchen. How many times have you said, I want something different, I'm tired of the same thing all the time? Because with quarantine it tends to be cooking every day. And so I saw this recipe on, I believe, the Food Network, and it's called melting cabbage. Now this is the first time I'm ever going to make this, so you're going to be making it with me. And what it is it's basically roasting cabbage in the oven and making a caramelized sauce that you spoon over it. And I thought this would be a good thing to make because it's different, instead of just roasting cabbage or braising cabbage or something. And I had a cabbage in my refrigerator I needed to get rid of. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a head of cabbage. They call for a 2-pound cabbage, and you peel the outer leaves off because they have they have dirt from the field and everything in them. And you could even rinse these off, and or after you get the leaves off, rinse it off. That's your choice. I personally don't, because it's got it's really a tight cabbage and it takes a lot to get dirt into those layers. So I'm still going to take these off. They say don't get rid of the outer cabbages, outer leaves. But you know what? They don't look good to me, so I'm not going to save them for other dishes. Here's the last one. There's a little bit of discolored on here, so I'm just going to shave it off. Done. Okay, I'm going to take the whole cabbage and I'm going to cut this end off, leaving the core intact, because you want the cabbage, it's going to be in wedges, so you want the cabbage to stay together. Okay, I had a little bit of dirt on it. And so I'm going to cut this cabbage, they say, in four wedges. Let me see how it's going to go. Now, as you know, these things are hard to cut, so what I do is I rotate it. Watch your fingers. Take the knife out, easy, and rotate it to the other side. There we go, that's half. And then I'm going to take this wedge. Still a little bit of discoloration right there. Take that off. And I'm going to cut it like this. Now the cooking factor, because you're making it so big, is a factor. So if you want to go ahead and make it into more wedges, just be prepared, because it will start falling apart. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just try to keep it together. And then I'm going to take this part, I'm going to cut that end off a little bit better. And I'm going to cut it in half. And then I'm going to cut it in half again. And cut it in half again. Okay. Now once we've got that done, try to keep it together. And I'm going to take you over the stove and show you how it's done. Okay, I'm using an oven-proof skillet. If you don't have an oven-proof skillet, maybe you have a cast iron skillet. Make sure it's big enough to hold the cabbage. If you don't have that, then you can put it in a glass casserole dish, 13 by 9 or 9 by 13, whatever they say. Put foil over the top and use that to bake it in the oven. This is oven-proof, and I'm going to show you how to do it in this pan. Why not the Instant Pot? I want the caramelization of roasting it in the oven instead of the Instant Pot, because sometimes if you cook the cabbage too long in the Instant Pot, it turns up like mush. It's still good, don't get me wrong, but I have a tendency to cook things a little bit too much I think the only one that I cook too long is cabbage, to tell you the truth. So I'm taking a half a stick of butter. Now this is plant-based butter. And basically all this is oil. So you could use olive oil, coconut oil, whatever you, well, bacon grease if you want. But that wouldn't be very vegetarian. Okay, now that we got that going, I have a medium onion that I chopped up, and we're going to start with that. Now I want to cook this so it melts down a little bit and actually starts becoming a little bit brown, and I'll be back to show you what that looks like. Okay, I have my onions cooking. They're not exactly brown yet, but that's going to happen in the oven. And what I have here is I have probably 4 or 5 cloves of garlic. Understand, we like garlic. It's good for you, but we like it. So I'm going to add that in and cook this for 1 minute because you don't want it to burn. Now cooking teaches you patience because you want it to hurry up and get done, but you've got to understand that things take time to get where they're supposed to be, especially if you want a dish that tastes really good. So it's about a minute. I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of tomato paste. And we're going to let that cook down a little bit because they say with tomato paste you want to cook it down to let it, the tomatoes get a little bit brown in there. Now remember, don't throw the rest of the can away of your tomato paste. Put it in a plastic baggie, little sandwich bag baggie, or smaller if you want. Put it in there, mush it down, and then seal it. You don't want to mush it before you seal it because it will just blow up. And then put it in your freezer. So there's probably about maybe 3 tablespoons left in that can. And so the next time you do a recipe, even though if it calls for 2 tablespoons, go ahead and use the 3. Or you can break it off. If you only need 1 tablespoon, you can break it off when it's frozen, not after it thaws. Okay, we let that go for a while. I'm going to add some hot pepper flakes. You know me, I don't like too much of them. But if you like them, crank it up. I'm going to add some fennel seeds. No, caraway seeds. That goes good with cabbage. Just about maybe half a teaspoon. And I've got a little bit of fresh thyme that was left over, believe it or not, from Thanksgiving. We're half into January already, but it's still in those little plastic things you buy in the grocery store. It still stayed fairly fresh. And here we're going to take our cabbage. And we're going to lay that down in there. Now, of course, the bigger the pieces, the longer it's going to take to cook. What we want to do is, even if you have to go in 2 batches, we want to start this cooking a little bit on each side. Don't go in there and start playing with it. Let it sit there for 3 or 4 minutes. And in order to keep my onions and herbs from burning, this is a mixture, 1 cup of white wine. If you don't have white wine, don't worry about it. I just have some in the refrigerator. I don't drink wine. I use it for cooking. So I'm going to add a little bit of moisture. This is 1 cup of white wine and 1 cup of chicken broth. Just a little bit. Now if you're vegetarian or vegan, you of course want to go veggie stock. No wine. I mean, you could. But no chicken stock is what I was trying to say. So we're going to roast this for a little bit, and I'll come back and show you what it's supposed to look like. Okay, I roasted my cabbage in the tomatoes, or the tomato paste. And I did add 2 more tablespoons of butter, because the second batch. Now I'm adding that the rest of the 1 cup of wine, white wine, and the 1 cup of chicken stock. And I actually, you know me, stirred in a teaspoon of Dijon mustard. I just like the way it brings up the flavors in foods. We have a lot of brown bits on the bottom, and of course if you're like us, we like the brown bits. So I'm going to scrape this all back into the skillet. Be careful you don't splash yourself. I'm going to spread it out a little bit. It's already up to a boil, and it's bubbling. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in the oven, covered, 350 degrees for an hour. Now there's some debate on some of these recipes. Some of them call for 45 minutes. Other ones call for 2 hours. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check it. I might check it in 30 minutes, spoon some of that sauce over the top if I have to. Now if I was roasting this in the oven without a lid, the top would get dry, so that's when you want to baste it. But I'm going to use the lid. This is oven-proof skillet, like I said. And of course I'm going to have cameraman Paul put it in for me. It's too heavy. Can't do it anymore. So we'll be back and I'll show you what it looks like. Will you look at that? I went in when it was 25 minutes or 30 minutes done. Started flipping the pieces, and as you can see they all fell apart, but that doesn't matter. I'm not a gourmet chef that has to have anything perfect. So I'm going to show you what it looks like on the plate and do a taste test for you. Okay, as I said, I went in at 30 minutes. If you had a bigger head of cabbage and you cut it in 4 pieces, it would take longer. You just need to check it every once in a while. Go in and stick a fork in it. If it goes in easily, it's done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on the plate. Put a little bit of that sauce over it. Now what I failed to do when I was making the recipe, salt and pepper. I'll be right back. Okay, like I said, I forgot to salt and pepper it, which is unusual for me. So I'm just going to very lightly crumble some kosher salt over the top. And I'm going to add pepper. If it was up to my husband, it'd be the whole container. And then we always, in Ohio, for some reason, when we had spinach, we would have to put a capful of apple cider vinegar on it. So what they suggest is just a little bit of balsamic over the top. And let me see if I can get a taste test if it's cool enough. Oh, I got that vinegar all over the place. It smelled terrific in the kitchen, and we're really hungry. Usually you would serve this as a side dish, but today I didn't have anything else going on, so we're going to eat it as a meal. I will definitely make this again. It's very good, very delicious. Just the right amount of red pepper flakes, just the right amount of thyme, and just the right amount of leaven. So don't forget, subscribe to my channel, push the bell so you get notified with my next video, and please share with your friends and family that might know somebody that has a dietary issue as gluten-free, dairy-free. We're now going into low carb. So this can actually be vegan, vegetarian, as long as you take out the chicken stock and do vegetable stock. See you later. Bye.